Hello, hello, hello. It has been absolutely bloody ages since I have sat down and chatted to you about some books I've been reading, so I thought I would do that today. This year I seem to be absolutely inhaling books. I've bossed my goal on Goodreads. I seem to have started like maybe twice as many books that I haven't finished. For various reasons. Some of them are great, some of them aren't so great. But I've been, I don't know, just this year I've been so ignited by how many great books have been coming out, and some kind of like old books that I've been discovering too. But I guess all of these are new books that I'm going to show you. They're all published in the last couple of years. As with my reading taste, it's a mixture of fiction and non-fiction. And I think I've probably read between 20 and 30 books this year, but here are some ones that have really stuck out to me as important, and ones that I can't believe I haven't mentioned to you yet. First one is this incredible book, Fall Down 7 Times, Get Up 8. The author's first book was The Reason I Jump, which was a huge bestseller, and this is his second book, A Young Man's Voice from the Silence of Autism. I picked this one up because I was looking to read more translated text, and this one is translated from Japanese. The reason that it actually came to prominence in his first book, The Reason I Jump, is because David Mitchell, who's a really famous author in the English-speaking language, has a son, I think, that has autism, and he was looking for a book that would guide him in that way and be from the perspective of an autistic person rather than like a medical journal or a kind of self-help book for parents. And he found this book in Japanese and was absolutely captured by it, and was the person to really push for it to be translated into English, and was really behind it. He was also one of the people that helped translate it, and I just find it a really interesting publishing story passage to fame, and I think that it is such a worthy bestseller. It's one of the ones that you see at the top of the charts and you're like, this is why. This book is a gem, and I think an antidote to society's obsession with the misery memoir and kind of like crocodile tears. He talks about the word for autism in Japanese, which conveys an image of people locking themselves inside themselves, and so he kind of plays with this idea of self-imprisonment as an autistic person who is completely non-speaking, and the misconception that they're unrelatable to, and they're the ones that are trapped. It's more of our unwillingness to include and to see the huge openness in autistic people that imprisons them, rather than the autism itself, which I thought was like really fascinating. And also he like shed some light on all of the really interesting ways he sees the world, like the fact that he doesn't perceive linear time in the same way. So when his classmates were all away for the summer and like became shy when they came back in September because they were like, oh, we don't know each other anymore, he didn't have that conception. He found the shyness really fascinating because to him they hadn't been away that long, and the unfamiliarity wasn't there in the same way, and he it was a way that he kind of sustained closeness with people and familiarity in situations because his perception of linear time wasn't the same. Anyway, that's a good example of like some of the things in this book, but there's so much more, and it's one that I've just kept on my shelf because I think it's, you know, I've dog-eared all the pages because I think it's just a beautiful book, and also a really good, obviously read it yourself, but it's also a really great gifting book. I think a lot of different kinds of people would really enjoy it and find it insightful and, I don't know, just beautiful. The next book is a style book. I don't usually feature that many style books and stuff on my channel, but I absolutely love this one. This is one, it is called Plus. It is an absolutely boss book of lots of women who are, in inverted commas, plus size, having bloody amazing style and outstyling everybody else. Like, it's just an incredible book to flip through. All of the photography is great. They've got quotes from all of these amazing women who have been featured in it, and I think it gives dignity and not sympathy, and it's not like patronizingly empowering and like, you can do it. It's more just like, here are some people who are really great at dressing. My fave Grace Victory is in it, and the production quality is brilliant. And it's just something that I'm probably always going to keep on my shelves to dip into, because I think it's such a little boost, and it's something that sometimes I'll go to Instagram for, but this is such a nice positive collection of offline style inspiration and like positive thoughts about weight, and I think it is an absolute essential for your shelf. There is a tendency to look at these books and think, oh, that, you know, these books are for plus size people to find stuff that suits them. But actually this is just a great like style inspiration, timeless book that you can get inspiration whatever size you are. Next up is The Friendship Cure by Kate Lever. I read this quite a while ago and I was absolutely floored by it, and as you can see this is an advanced reading copy, and it was published in March and I still haven't got around to reviewing it, not because I hated it, because I bloody loved it, and I've got to stop saying bloody in this video, but I bloody loved it. I wanted to kind of read it again before talking about it, but it's getting late and I want to talk about it, and I love it, and I kind of want to read it again and then make a video about my thoughts on it and things that I have discovered about myself because of it. But I just wanted to give it a mention as soon as possible in this video. It's something that I jumped at reading because I feel like it's something that a lot of people need and something that isn't talked about very much. And I feel like there's so many books on relationships, there's so many books on careers, and this, you know, the idea of friendship is this thing that's supposed to happen naturally to you, and you're supposed to be able to navigate without the same kind of levels of discussion and problems. And I think when you have problems in friendship, it's a bit more shameful. It feels like it should be a thing that is obvious, and it's just not. Even, you know, I even for somebody who's like fairly sociable and finds conversations with people quite easy, I still find some of the intricacies of friendship and the ways that I'm supposed to act towards it and conduct it really confusing. This is a kind of like sociological, backed up with some science and a lot of psychology, kind of look at loneliness and the importance of company, the importance of quality company. I'm just going to pull out a few things that I find useful for it, because I don't want to try and summarise the whole book in, you know, a couple of minutes. One of the experiments I found really fascinating and that I wanted to pull out was this one where they hooked people up to some machines. Don't ask me what kind of machines. I'm just the reader. I'm not the writer. This scientific experiment suggested that the feeling of being excluded lit up the dorsal atrial circular cortex in the brain of the participants, the very same area of the brain that regulates physical pain. So the idea of loneliness and exclusion is actually, you know, it has the same kind of reaction to physical pain, but we don't take it as seriously and we don't really look at the long-term effects of that. So I thought that was really interesting. She talks about launching an aggressive campaign of kindness and how we can regulate that. Loneliness is more dangerous than smoking 15 cigarettes a day and deadlier than obesity because it kills more people. Loneliness can increase our chances of developing clinical dementia by 64%. Now that is a terrifying stat. But yeah, she kind of talks about the nuances of friendship breakups, the masculinity and the politics of bromance. The quality of company is also interesting. She says the scariest thing about loneliness is that it can exist in the presence of love. Loneliness isn't frightened of company. It doesn't scamper around at the sound of another human's voice or disappear in the company of others. Loneliness is perfectly happy to come to a party with you, pleased as punch to accompany you on outings with people you know and perhaps even adore. Loneliness is audacious like that. It doesn't care who you're with and it doesn't care what you're doing. It kind of talks about the difference between company and companionship and like how to nurture quality friendships. This one also hit home because I think that's something I struggle with, is like who to prioritise in my life and how nostalgia plays into that and how it can inhibit like real connection. So if the friend isn't, so it talks about toxic friendship, but it also talks about you know, why we treat relationships in this way that's like a clear break, where you know whether you're with someone or you're not with somebody, and then like the grey area of friendship and how painful that can be. If the friend isn't toxic but your lives have diverged to a point where there's not even nostalgia or respect can salvage it, then you've got to pluck up the courage to say we've become different people and we've decided you shouldn't continue this friendship. So yeah, it talks about that as well, which I thought was just really interesting and something I hadn't thought about before. And also the relationship between squads and that squad goals, friendship, and like the display of friendship versus the actual act of it. Anyway, the next one is a poetry collection I had to order over from the States. I picked it because the title is brilliant. It ran away from me. Get back here. I picked it because the title is boss. There are more beautiful things than Beyonce by Morgan Parker, and also because Roxane Gay, blah blah. Thirdly, because foil, and foil on poetry books never happens, so I was very excited. I thought this was an absolutely beautiful collection of poems, and they're very sharp. It talks about the nature of blackness and womanhood and how those things intersect. It talks about pain. It's very tender in the way it's told. I don't know how to really like capture it, but it was just, I just felt like I was in a trance the whole time I was reading it. I read it kind of like in almost a sitting and a bit. I just felt completely transported by it. I felt like her voice is so all-encompassing and kind of like it just consumes you. It's just, I don't know how to. It has this really clever motif running through it about Beyonce, that you can kind of probably tell from some of the titles of the poems. A poem on Beyonce's birthday, Beyonce on the line for Gaga, Beyonce is sorry for what she won't feel, Robo Beyonce, what Beyonce won't say on a shrink's couch, Beyonce prepares a will, and it goes on like that. And there's also some just other poems that are brilliant, particularly The President Has Never Said the Word Black. That was one of my favourites. And a really great one called The President's Wife, about being the first anything. There's also a really funny poem about like kind of sarcastic and really hard hitting about it's called Afro, and it's about the things that she hides in her hair. Let's see if I can find it. It's like, I'm hiding secrets and weapons in there, buttermilk, pancake, cardboard, boxes of purple juice, a magic word our Auntie Angela spoke into her fist and released into hot black evening like gunpowder or a cool, 40 yards of cheap wax prints, the autobiography of Malcolm X, and it goes on like that. It's just a brilliant one if you're thinking of picking up a new poetry collection. Absolutely superb. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about Sheila Hetty's Motherhood. I have not physically been able to control myself from shouting at people about this book. I've tried to do it in my politest and most enthusiastic, likeable tones, but I just want to be like, fucking read it! Especially given that the Irish referendum has just happened, and it was a great result for all, and it's a book that in a very, what shouldn't be daring but is daring way, asks the question, why the hell would you want to be a mother? And it's a really fair, like, it voices a lot of things because it's a fictionalized but still first person account of her thoughts about motherhood. She dares to go to a lot of places that I think is the point of literature. It's there to voice those things that feel awkward to say and play with them without having to commit a permanent attachment to them or like a real world personality to those thoughts. Does that make any sense? She's getting to this age where it feels like it's an urgent decision to make, and the Sheila, or the voice that Sheila is portraying in the book, asks why she feels like she should be a mother rather than just maybe wanting to or not wanting to. There's a feeling of should, and how you have to have this really good excuse if you don't want to. She wonders whether she'll regret it, and she talks about what there is to lose from not becoming a mother. And it's really, it comes to a really like fair, I think comes to a very like fair and doesn't tear down the idea of being a mother in general, but the personal obligation to be a mother. And I think it's there, it has all these thoughts that aren't there to like, although there's like some parts of it that some people might, I don't know, I feel like some people might find it offensive if they're like really invested in motherhood as a thing that is important for every woman. But I think it's there, the book is there to readdress so much of the heavy weighting of like the entitlement that society has to women's bodies and how they should become mothers. I actually pulled together on Medium a list of like quotes that I love from the book, because I wanted to kind of like share why I loved it by just being like, listen to this bit, because that's how I tell people about books a lot in real life, is just running up to them and trying to read to them from the book, to be like, listen to this. So I'm just going to read one of those passages, but I'll link the article that I wrote below. Why are we still having children? Why was it so important for a doctor that I did? A woman must have children because she must be occupied. When I think of all the people who want to forbid abortions, it seems that it can only mean one thing. Not that they want this new person in the world, but they want that woman to be doing the work of child rearing more than they want her to be doing anything else. There is something threatening about a woman who is not occupied with children. There is something at loose ends feeling about such a woman. What is she going to be doing instead? What sort of trouble will she make? And it talks a lot about this binary idea of like being a not mother and being the negative of somebody else's positive. And in general, I'm just going to be shouting about it a lot because I bloody love it. Anyway, them are the books that I've been loving recently. There's lots more that I've read, so I will try and talk about them all at some point. Let me know what you are reading in the comments below. I will leave a list of all the books I've talked about there too. If you would like to support this channel, you can read more about a thing called the Gumption Club, which not a lot of people know about. You can read more about that below too. You're going to be very busy down there. And then what else have I got to say? That's it. I hope you're having a great year so far. And I'll see you in my next one. Frog snug out.
Alright. I can't focus on what needs to get done. I'm on notice, hoping that you don't run. You think I'm tepid, but I'm misdiagnosed. 'Cause I'm a stalker, I seen all of your posts.